Hello and welcome to Sylvan Mist Designs. Today, I want to talk a little bit about thinning your paint. I want to start by asking the age-old question, can't you just thin your paint with water? Now, technically the answer is yes, you absolutely can. However, I never recommend it, and here's why. For the water-based acrylics that we tend to use in Mandala, you cannot use a ratio of more than 30% water to paint, or the water is going to start breaking down the paint's binders. Now, if you are going to be mixing or thinning paint in somewhat larger quantities, let's just say, for example, the 2-ounce bottles that they typically come in, that'll work out just fine. However, it's going to be extremely difficult to gauge what 30% water to paint's ratio is if you're just putting it in your palette a couple drops at a time. The other problem is, very deceptively so, the ill effects of adding water to your paint are not going to be immediate in all cases. So when you are initially mixing it, it may not look too thin, and applying it to your project, it might look beautiful and nothing seems to matter. However, changes in the heat, humidity, and even the natural aging of the projects are going to kick off problems with their adhesion, and eventually your paint could crack, flake, or peel right off because, again, we've broken down the binders and the paint. Now, what does that mean? The binders are the key ingredient in paint. These binders hold the pigment or the color together, and they create the beautiful surface. The binders also relate directly to the paint's what you would call performance. This does include the adhesion, so how well it sticks to the surface that it's placed on. If it's going to be used on a surface that is like a plate or a glass, it's going to affect your washability, scrub resistance, and scratch resistance. And it's also going to affect the color, the fading of your paint. So what is the better way to do this? The better way is to add a medium. Mediums are specifically designed for this exact purpose, and they're not going to interfere with the adhesion. Additional benefits of using a medium over water is that if your paint, for example, does tend to dry out a little too quickly as you're working, this could help that from happening. Mediums also do tend to increase the depth of color. They retain the transparency or opacity of your paint and will give it a beautiful finish. There are a huge number of brands and choices, varieties in all types of finishes with these mediums. But keep in mind, you do not actually have to stick to a product that specifically is for thinning. An example that I hear a lot is going to be use a pouring medium versus a thinning medium. And that's perfectly fine. No matter what you use, just make sure that the project states specifically that it is for use with the type of acrylic paints that you'll be dotting with. I do want to make special mention about glassware. If you intend to paint on anything glass or ceramic, do not thin your multi-surface paints for this purpose, period. In addition to the thinning causing the paint to run and drip, even if you have air dried or oven cured your project, the paint still may not adhere properly. Multi-surface paints are not for glass and ceramic. If you pick up a multi-surface paint and you want to use it on glass, do not thin your paint. Even if you're using it as is, it's safer to invest in either a glass medium, which is another specific type of medium that you can add to your paint to increase the adhesion, or specifically buy a paint that is made for this purpose. Thank you so much for joining me with this Tuesday's tip.